Welcome back to Uncanny X-Minutes. I'm producer James.
And I'm Saja.
We're here to talk about the X-Men movies through the lens of the comics. This episode, we're going to be talking about minutes 90 through 100. What happens in those minutes?
Wolverine prepares for another Canadian road trip. Magneto and Professor X play plastic chess or glass chess. Actually, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I thought they were glass pieces.
Glass chess in a plastic prison?
Yeah, that's exactly
There it is.
In his plastic prison. And then the credits start. We're getting to the end of the movie.
we kind of are.
Yeah.
Because I swore we were going to do 10-minute segments, next episode is just credits.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 minutes.
And we'll be talking about other things.
We're still going to do an episode. Don't worry. But for this set of minutes, I do want to talk, speaking of glass chess.
Yes.
Plastic prison.
Yes.
I think we all agree on that then.
I think so.
I wrote the wrong thing down.
It might be plastic. I mean, honestly, I would.
Everything else was plastic,
Yeah,
I felt like.
it looked like glass. And honestly, it might be glass, but they're pretending that it's plastic for the movie. But I don't know if I would give Magneto like heavy glass objects, you know?
Right?
Like that might not be actually the way to go. He's dangerous. Anyway, pulling out the lead in the glass, like, seems like a bad idea.
So I was trying to research Magneto specifically being in prison.
Hard thing to do.
I found one.
Yes.
In
Did
the
you?
Ultimate Comics.
Really?
Yes, right? We haven't delved into the Ultimate Comics.
I don't.
Which was, because it was a complete reboot of the Marvel Universe.
And to be completely honest, I read none of it. That was I was not interested.
I read the Ultimates, which is the Avengers version.
Okay.
And it is closer to what the MCU is.
Okay.
They pulled a lot from the Ultimates, including Nick Fury that looks like Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay. That's right. I do know a couple things about the Ultimate Universe. The two of my favorite characters that are not in the X-Men, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury comes from that universe. Mm-hmm. And then Miles Morales as Spider-Man comes from the Ultimate Universe. That's all I know. And I feel like that's all I really need to know.
Fun story. There is actually a small miniseries just to write that version of Nick Fury into the 616.
That's lovely.
He doesn't come from the Ultimate Universe over like Miles did.
Yeah.
He is actually like Nick Fury's son.
That's okay. I have vaguely heard this.
I only read it because Deadpool's involved. So I was in a big Deadpool phase at the time. And so I read it.
Okay. That makes sense.
They also got Coulson in there too.
Okay.
So the two of them were buddies to begin with. Anyway. But Magneto in a plastic prison, specifically Ultimate X-Men number 33, which happens in 2003 is when it was published 3 years after this movie.
Okay.
So
it's later.
The movie started the plastic prison craze, obviously. But it was a prison under the Ultimates HQ, which is what they called the Avengers. They called them the Ultimates. The Triskelion.
Okay.
It's like deep under that.
Okay.
Little plastic cube.
Seems like a bad idea. Putting him closer to the center of the earth, which is full of metal.
I don't know what to tell you. It looks like he's in a void, though.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like there's like a glass elevator or whatever, a plastic elevator. I would say glass because of Willy Wonka, but there's a plastic elevator that like brings people down. So the first scene is with Charles, comes down and chats with him.
Oh, okay. So
and then
like
in like a later run, Polaris comes down and talks to him.
Okay.
And then Mystique breaks him out because that's what Mystique do.
That's fair. I guess this makes sense, especially because it's after the movie. Like, I do think the plastic prison is a movie thing that very much impacted.
Which is crazy. I mean, not that I would have sworn, I would have thought I would have ran across something where he doesn't get in trouble. Not that he doesn't get in trouble, but like he never gets in an actual prison.
Here's my thought. Here's my pitch. I think Magneto is too powerful for that to work in the comic books by the time that 2000 comes around. Here's why. Do you remember, how much about Utopia do you know about?
I know a bit about Utopia.
Great. We don't need to talk too much about it, but basically Utopia is an island where the X-Men lived.
Isn't it Asteroid M?
Yes, the debris of it.
Yeah. It's in San Francisco Bay.
Yeah. So Magneto comes and there's not a ton of mutants left. There's like, I think this is after
House of M. M Day, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
Where spoiler alerts for House of M, Scarlet Witch ends that book by saying no more mutants.
Yeah.
No more mutants are born, and a lot of them lost their powers.
Yes, including Magneto. Yeah. But anyway, he gets his powers back. Long story
Everyone
short.
gets better.
Everybody gets better. But he's trying to get back onto Utopia to work with the like small number of mutants in order to become their like to work with like Cyclops and Charles, because there's only 198 mutants left or whatever. And how he does it, how he proves that he's a good guy and a nice person, is that he pulls Kitty Pryde, who's been trapped in like this big bullet. She like sacrificed herself, and she like
back in Astonishing X-Men?
back at the end of Astonishing X-Men, she sacrificed herself to put herself in the case of this bullet and kind of like flings herself out into the universe, and she like speeds by Magneto while he's out there getting his powers back. Too long of a story. I don't want to talk about it. So the point is, he sits there on the top of this mountain and like literally turns into like skin and bones, and he pulls her back from space and then pulls her out of it and then like keeps the bullet going.
Yeah, you can't put that guy in prison.
You can't, because the earth exists around him. So I think that's why the plastic by the time that Magneto by the time people start tossing the idea of plastic prisons around, I feel like he had too many feats that made the prisons really hard.
Well, let's run through some of Marvel's super prisons they've had and see if any of the other ones would work for Magneto.
I'd love to hear this.
All right. So the first one I've got is the most recent.
Yeah.
It's referred to as the Pit of Exile.
Yes.
From House of X number 6 from Hoxpox.
Yeah.
Is also been known as the Hole, Krakoa's Pit, Krakoa State Penitentiary, Naughty Step, the Pit, and the Pit of Krakoa.
I do remember the Naughty Step. It's cruel and unusual punishment.
So the reason they created it is that Krakoa, being a new nation state, has made like major laws. And if you break any of these laws, there's only one punishment. That is the Pit of Exile. So one of the major ones is kill no man.
Yes.
And the biggest violator of this law is Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning.
Really early.
So right in before they even like start into their real run, while they're still doing House of X, Powers of X, Sabretooth's, I think he's robbing a bank or something. Like he's doing a crime, kills someone. He gets in front of the Quiet Council, which is just like all the heads of Krakoa. And they're like, well, you did it. Into the pit you go. So they literally open a pit in front of them, and he gets sucked down, and it's sort of like being put into indefinite stasis.
Yes.
I think the idea is that you're kind of brain dead while you're down there.
There's no there's no input into, like, there's nothing you could see, nothing you could hear. It's kind of very isolating. Well,
it's like it's put into stasis.
Yes.
It's what it's supposed to be.
Right. Not always what happens. Because, we don't have to go into that.
Well, with Sabretooth, it ends up being like he gets his own side story.
Yeah.
Which is because we talked about Doug Ramsey, a.k.a. Cypher, last episode. He kind of felt bad for Sabretooth. And it led to some shenanigans. We'll just say that. It's too long to go into now. But that is the first one, which that one could work.
Yes, that one would work it works for Charles, spoiler alert, works for Charles Xavier. So like
Emma Frost got sent down there, and Hope got sent down there.
If it holds Hope, it probably can hold Magneto. So
I mean,
yeah,
that one probably could work, but that's a more recent prison.
Very new.
One of my favorites, The Big House. Okay, this is from She-Hulk. I want to say number 5.
Okay.
In 2004, so not too long after this movie. This run of She-Hulk is Dan Slott's run of She-Hulk. It's kind of similar to the Disney Plus show, where she's the lawyer at the law firm that is superhuman cases.
Yeah.
Essentially, she's there to help heroes and villains. She finds out that there's a prison called the Big House, where it's Hank Pym's prison, where they shrink down all the villains to like action figure size, essentially, so they can fit more of them in a space and they're less dangerous.
That's a tough one. I don't know if that could hold him. For a bit, but not forever, I don't think.
So, I mean, part of the She-Hulk run is that they do it to a minor, and She-Hulk is brought in to be like, hey, now, you shrunk her without her consent to a minor.
Yeah.
Gets her out. Good. But and then there's a prison break and whatnot. Because all of these prisons have prison breaks.
There is no prison in the Marvel Universe that could hold anybody indefinitely.
Because if you did, it would be boring.
Exactly.
So they got to escape at some point.
Yeah. Just like why nobody really dies forever, because it would be boring.
Later in the run, at the end of the run, they put Titania in it.
Okay, love her.
And it's now called the Ant Farm, where they shrunk them down even more. And the ants are the guards. It literally looks like an ant farm.
I'm gonna have to read this. This sounds incredible.
The Dan Slott She-Hulk run from that era is like 12 issues. It's real short. It's real fun.
Okay.
That's the one where they have determined that comic books are legal precedent because they're written about true events and the people have signed off on them. So they can use them in legal cases.
Interesting.
So they've got long boxes in the law office.
She-Hulk seems so wild. Okay, noted.
All right. So next I have The Raft.
Yes.
Which is what most people probably know when they think of Marvel super jails, super prisons. Mm-hmm. It's the one that is used in the MCU.
Yeah. It's the Shield. Is it Shield or is it Sword or whatever?
I think Shield runs it.
I think it's Shield. One of those Fury-run organizations.
At the end of the Civil War movie, that's where all the heroes are put. Mm-hmm. It's in the middle of not maybe the middle ocean, but it's in the middle of the water, like out a ways and submerged. The Raft in the comics is not submerged.
Yeah.
That one is more like Alcatraz is what it kind of looks like.
Yeah.
It was originally in Alias. Do you remember that book? So it's the original Jessica Jones book.
Oh, no, I haven't read that.
Fantastic.
Let me tell you.
Fantastic.
I do not read anything but other X-Men. You're like, have you read this? I'm like, probably not.
Alias is great because it is like it's what the Disney Plus show was based on.
Got it.
So it's her as a private eye, but she used to be a superhero.
Oh, that's fun.
So she visits the Raft for whatever reason. But the Thunderbolts, which is a super villain team used for, it's like the Suicide Squad of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
You take supervillains, you make them do good, and they can get time off their sentence. So their headquarters were in the Raft.
Got it.
And if they participated in the program, they got time taken off their sentence.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. It is also Spider Island.
Oh.
Like there's a whole Spider-Man series called Spider Island where everybody got spider powers in New York. You don't remember that happening in X-Men?
No.
Yeah, that happened. And then the Superior Spider-Man run, he used it as his HQ.
Got it.
That's a whole other thing I'm not going to get into.
Sounds good.
Lastly, I have Prison 42.
Okay.
Which was the prison created in Civil War number 5. Like the first Civil War run.
Okay.
Reed Richards needed to build a better prison. Mm-hmm. So he went to the Negative Zone.
Oh, okay.
And he built a prison there. So like the last couple of issues of Civil War happen in Prison 42.
Yeah, that would hold Magneto.
Yeah. The Raft's not as like aggressive about like I think they had power nullifying things around, but he's an Omega level mutant. I don't think that always works.
Also, he can create his own power nullifications. I don't know if you noticed about Magneto. That did happen. Yeah. So I don't trust any of that around him, honestly.
I mean, it was that the story arc we talked about last episode.
Yes, it was.
Where he almost kills Kitty Pryde.
Yep.
Cyclops is running around without a visor on.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
Wolverine can't smell. Everybody gets impacted.
Colossus almost drowns.
Yeah, because he loses his mental form. Anyway, yeah. Magnetism, who knew?
Weird. I think we've said it in past episodes. Magnets can do whatever you need them to do. But yeah, Prison 42 in the Negative Zone, if I recall, has like sort of it takes a drain on you living in the Negative Zone for so long.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, I don't know too much about the Negative Zone, but I do know it's not super fun.
Because it's some Fantastic Four nonsense.
Yeah, that's true. I do read the Fantastic Four versus the X-Men comics. Those I've read.
I know how they versus each other, but I don't know one on the other.
I know.
Well, that's another one that's like its own thing. You know, the Fantastic Four have their own universe that they're dealing with, it feels like half the time.
Yeah. I mean, but their kid is a mutant, which is kind of like the big thing. And honestly, I was kind of surprised that he hasn't been in more of the
Krakoa stuff?
Yeah. There was a little side issue, which I read, and I really liked it, but I don't know.
I think they try, like, the random mutants that get thrown in other stories. I feel like they try not grabbing them too much.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But I don't know, like Franklin Richards, who we're talking about, is the son of Reed Richards and Sue. And like, he is one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. maybe more. So it is kind of weird. It's kind of like the Superman problem where it's like, well, where is he though? Like,
why is he helping out with things?
He seems like he could be really helpful, but like
in current events, yeah, he would be very helpful.
Right,
I'm not going to go into what that all is,
because that's really spoilery. But
very current.
But I do think that like that's a little bit of the problem, which is probably why they don't bring him in too much because it's complicated. But anyway, no prison could
does a
hold
lot of that
Franklin
powers
Richards.
come from Fantastic Four or from X-Men?
Oh, I think it's Power Pack.
Oh man, there's your problem. I was gonna say, because if it's written in X-Men, then it is X-Men's problem that they wrote him too much.
No,
but if somebody else is like, oh, he's a mutant and yada yada yada, and then it's like, oh, dude, why are you doing that?
No,
why
I actually think it is X-Men's problem.
Is it?
Yeah, because he comes back from the future when he has the relationship with
was it Rachel?
Rachel, and he's an adult in that.
Yeah,
she's from the future. Yeah, I think we did that.
Oh, that's our problem.
Yeah.
Well, they keep trying to grab him. The Fantastic Four won't let him.
That's true. He's great.
He's not allowed to come out and play.
I really wish he would. Anyway, I'm going to write that book. That's what I'll do.
If you ever watched Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon show, they have what they've deemed as the 4 big prisons. And that is the Big House, the Raft, the Vault, and the Cube.
Interesting.
So the Vault is in the Rockies.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's just like in the middle of nowhere in a mountain.
Okay.
The Cube is, I believe, where they leave extraterrestrial prisoners. Like
I see.
Marvel Boy was
Boy
in
and
there.
stuff. Okay.
I think that's where that one comes from. But I mean, there's a ton.
Yeah.
Obviously, like it's funny because a lot of these are like early 2000s.
That makes sense.
Which is fascinating.
But why they all of a sudden there was like this push for like prisons.
Well, I mean, it's
yeah, I think we could maybe
it's post 9/11.
Yeah, some like political things that are going
so
on there.
I think that's we needed a place to put, like, why are these supervillains running around so much? We have to put them somewhere. So we had to start creating super prisons on U.S. soil.
Woo, okay. I guess that makes I think they've generally backed away from it though, because like even the Krakoan era is like the newest one I think of the ones that you've named. Obviously it's just the pit. But even that one is kind of like not really a prison because the Doug Ramsey and Warlock and Krakoa, they'd make different choices. Yeah. So I think it's I haven't read Sabretooth and the Exiles, but it's on my list.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they also use Rikers a lot, but that's...
Oh, yeah. Well, that doesn't count. Yeah.
Real. I feel like they send super villains that aren't super powered.
Yeah.
Like Vulture goes there, or Shocker. Like, if you can take away their equipment...
Yeah, they just put them
in Rikers.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's all the super prisons.
Not much is going to hold Magneto, unfortunately, I don't think.
I think the pit is about it.
The pit is about it. Yeah. I think there's some like psychic holds on him that could maybe work. That's what I'm saying.
Like you would have to like shut him down.
Yeah. We they're talking about this last episode also in the mini series. There's times where he's restrained. It's not like quite a prison, and he usually breaks out of it. But like as we've mentioned, everybody's breaking out of everything.
It's all for show.
Yeah,
let's be honest. If you put handcuffs on Superman, it's just for show.
He's like allowing it to happen. Like I think technically he's in handcuffs in the first trial of Magneto. He chose to be in handcuffs. Yeah. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
He allowed that to happen.
Okay.
But in like he's sitting in a chair in like his mind in the new miniseries, the 2023 Magneto miniseries, where his followers, the Sisterhood of Evil Mutants, has him. He's technically trapped in that chair.
You have to be in his mind.
But because they are psychically manipulating him. It doesn't last for more than a couple issues. But I mean, you can hold him sometimes briefly. But like long-term imprisonment seems dicey at best. Yeah. What else are we going to talk about? Can we talk about Wolverine leaving the X-Men?
Yeah, because he like just joined, didn't he? And now he's already on a road trip again?
He does this a lot, turns out. I so I was like, oh, maybe I'll just list every single time he's done this. I immediately backtracked on that because I was like, oh, there's just too many. I would sit here for like 30 minutes just recounting and then having to give you the context for everything.
I mean, he's got his reasons.
I thought that would be actually more interesting to talk about.
His reasons?
Yeah, kind of like the buckets in which his reasons lie. Typically, how this works.
So you've categorized.
I think this is
leavings
better. Yeah, there was so many that was possible.
You did one of those like flow charts where like times he's left the X-Men, and then it portions out into different branches of like, well, 12 times it was because the food was bad, and then
yes. So I think let's talk about the one that they show in this movie, which is he is leaving because he got information about the Weapon X facility. He's trying to get his memories back. That has happened before. Wolverine leaving to find himself.
How many times is it he has to go to Madripoor?
Yeah, or Japan. He does that a lot
Japan,
too.
Sure. These are things that'll happen in movies later.
Yeah.
So we'll go into more detail.
I think we can just really briefly say like that's something that really happens. If Jean Grey dies, that's a huge issue. And you know what? That's a category because it happens more than once. And I'm going to leave it there.
It happens.
Yeah.
Jean Grey dies.
A lot.
And when you got to take some you time when Jean Grey dies.
He really does. So like the death of Jean Grey is its own category of little bucket. Getting his memories back, things about the past is another. One category, which I thought was real, there are two categories that are actually separate. One is whenever he loses a power.
Okay.
And whenever he sometimes gains a power. Both
because I guess at the end of Fatal Attraction, when he loses his adamantium, he leaves.
That is not the only time he's done that. Do you want to know another time that he has done that?
Sure.
In 2013, in the Wolverine standalone comic at the time, he leaves both the X-Men and the Avengers.
Oh, no.
Because he lost his healing factor because he gets infected in the microverse.
Okay.
So he loses healing factor and then leaves both teams at the same time. Really just put them all together and wrapped it up. And so he's like off to find a way to get his healing powers back. So that is another situation in which he would leave.
Okay.
I would
what
argue.
Has he gained?
I would argue. Now this is a little pushing it, but I think it's funny. He technically leaves the X-Men to live in the forest outside the schools of Xavier when he starts gaining that like savage Wolverine thing. You remember when he gets all furry and he lives in the woods and he leaves? He leaves the X-Men because he is gaining his weird mutation feral thing. Yeah. And he leaves for the safety of everybody there. Haha, see? It doesn't matter. Anything can trigger a Wolverine leaving the X-Men is what I've kind of concluded.
But he's like a stray dog. He'll be back.
And that's the thing. He gets asked back a lot. Like, also, he will leave the X-Men if Cyclops breaks it up. Like, whenever the team breaks up, he'll, like, shrug it off and just go. Like, that happens. Like, he closes. I think that's, like, he dies is also sometimes how he leaves the X-Men.
Yeah, dying will make you quit the team.
Yeah, like Wolverine and the X-Men. That's how he ends up leaving the school or whatever. Leaving the X-Men is he dies. He got better, okay, but he did die, and he leaves. And so I think we need to make
shirts where just everyone gets better and just have an X behind it. It's fine.
Yeah. The last one I think is the most interesting.
Okay.
Is when Wolverine gets mad at the decisions being made. He doesn't agree with the philosophy of whatever the X-Men is doing at the moment.
So you're referring to the story arc Schism.
Well, that is one time that I'm referring
more than once
to the story arc of Schism. That's one.
Wow. I love when I'm like, oh yeah, that's absolutely happened to us in the story arc. That was the third time it happened.
Yeah, there's been a couple of other times it happens. And the intensity of which would trigger this varies. Sure. Schism, which is where Cyclops and Wolverine splits, actually the beginning of, it leads into Wolverine and the X-Men, because Cyclops kills Professor Xavier, but there's already like bad blood going on, and like people, and Cyclops is siding with Magneto a little bit more. It gets complicated.
So
Jean Grey is dead.
I think I was wrong in a previous episode, because I think it's Schism leads into Uncanny and Wolverine and the X-Men, and then AVX happens during those runs.
Yes.
I think I had read it. I had said it differently, because Professor X gets killed in AVX.
Mea culpa. But yes, that's yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a little retcon from a previous episode.
Schism is so fuzzy. It's whatever.
Boy, a lot of stuff happens.
It's talking about the breakup, but then that breakup lasts for a really long time.
Sure.
So like whatever. You can call it all schism, frankly.
I mean, it's like 8 issues difference or something, like a dozen. Like it's not long into the runs that all of a sudden AVX happens.
No.
For me, Cyclops' look at that time with the big X on his face, I always associate that with broken powers. And it doesn't start as broken powers.
No.
But later it is very much broken.
Yeah.
From the Phoenix Force breaks his powers
Later.
essentially.
Yeah. No, it's a little different.
I love it, but it's that's so for me I fuzzed it up myself.
No, we got it. The other time he does, this was he leaves the X-Men because he gets upset when there's a situation, I can't remember what year this is, but basically Wolverine gets involved between a fight between Gambit and Rogue, where like Rogue kind of gets kidnapped and Gambit's taking her, but he's being under control of the Ferris twins and it's complicated. Anyway, he goes to fight Gambit to save Rogue. Rogue gets upset because obviously this is her man and she scolds him and he leaves the X-Men because he's so angry.
So he petty.
Okay. Right? That's not really the same level of schism. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it could be anything.
We had a disagreement over dinner versus our ideological viewpoints on the world.
You know, that's just another thing. In the current Krakoan era, before the fall of X, he leaves X-Force. He leaves Krakoa because he is unhappy with how the Quiet Council is handling Beast and X-Force. I will not go into any further detail because I don't want to spoil too much, but it's actually, that falls under not dinner. That falls under huge philosophical differences.
Somebody on the other end of this.
Yeah, on the other end of that spectrum, somebody probably should have listened to Wolverine and stepped in. Really
you
horrible
can't
things
tell,
happen to him.
sometimes you're just like, disagree, and then he just leaves.
Exactly. That one though, he was right. Like that was really bad. You should read that run. That's really interesting. Also, if Professor Xavier dies, sometimes he just goes.
So death in the family.
Yeah. Not always, but like Jean Grey and Professor Xavier, sometimes he'll do that. And like sometimes he joins, like he'll leave and it'll be a couple issues and then Storm is like, hey, you should join back up with the X-Men. And he's like, nah. And then Jean Grey will come into his dreams and he'll be like, oh, actually, yeah. Like,
I will. Sounds good.
He's very iffy back and forth. Finally is his noble sacrifice, where Wolverine will leave the team because he's got enemies that he's attracting to the X-Mansion. So that can be, sometimes it's Lady Deathstrike, sometimes it's Sabretooth, not usually. It's usually bigger enemies like Lady Deathstrike, something that's like about his past and like the other like Weapon X's or whatever. Like that sometimes will trigger as well.
Somebody from Japan comes, or somebody from
Shogun,
Madripoor, or somebody from...
Exactly. Sometimes he's undercover for Xavier, so he's not really leaving the team. I didn't count those.
Okay.
Where he's like people think he's left the team, but he hasn't because he's technically
but it's a front.
undercover. Yeah, I didn't count that. Okay. I think that still counts as being part of the team.
Was he Patch for any of these?
I didn't. I actually didn't even pull up Patch at all. Nope, this is all just...
we'll talk about Patch during one of the Wolverine episodes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the way to go. That is, I think, a good overview of why Wolverine has left the X-Men and why he may leave the X-Men again. Sometimes it's X-Force. Okay. I think that counts. Like, I think all of that counts. So you can see now why I did not list every single time he's left the X-Men. Sure. There's just a lot. There's too many. I think that's fine. I think the X-Men they're built for people to kind of come in and out. In the Krakoan era, they actually quantified this. Like every Hellfire Gala, they got a new team, which was
like once a year.
Which is a lot.
They change up the entire team, so they have like a 12 issue run of like, here's this team of X-Men.
Yeah,
and then we'll vote again next year.
Yeah, so it's really they kind of made that part of the comics where it wasn't really before, but it was informally. There's so many times that people kind of drama happens, they go in and out. We talked about this in the New Mutants run. The number of New Mutants that sometimes go to the Massachusetts Academy with the Hellions and then go back and forth, like with Magma, like that happens a lot. Like
that's part of the drama.
It's part of the drama. It's
part of the fun.
Wolverine and the X-Men, people go to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, like it's like Toad and they, the
Hellfire Academy.
Hellfire Academy. It happens all the time. So I think that the X series is built for people to come in and out, but Wolverine does it more often than most.
I think that's what's nice of like we were when we were talking way back about X-Men teams.
Yeah,
that's where some of the fun is. Mm-hmm. Is that an X-Men team is not like solid.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like if you're like, who's in the Justice League? The big three have to be there.
Yeah.
And if Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman aren't in the team, it feels kind of off. In X-Men, I don't know. I mean, you could argue there are some big characters that need to be there, but if you read the books, it fluctuates.
Yeah. I also feel like there's also the generational aspect. We've talked a little bit about this. There's the Xavier kids, which is like the original 5. But I also think that the New Mutants are a whole separate team that like a lot of people have a lot of attachment to. And then Generation X. And those are different teams who have different teachers. Generation X is Banshee and Emma Frost. New Mutants is Magneto. The original 5 are the only ones that are like really with Xavier the whole time. So
well, you got a young X-Men. You also have like I don't know what you would call the young the students of Wolverine's school.
Those are Wolverine's kids.
They're a whole other group of kids.
Yeah, Wolverine and Kitty Pryde.
We're starting to get. I feel like in the Krakoan era, people just join the already established teams.
Yeah,
like the New Mutants are gathering new kids,
right?
You know, like they have Scout now and Escapade, and I'm not going to go into who all those are, but they like have just been like gathering students, and now they just kind of hang out with each one.
Who fit the vibe? Yeah,
right? Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
but yeah. I think that about wraps it up.
Oh my gosh, that was so fast.
Right? Well, and we've also almost wrapped up the movie because now we're in credits. All right. Well, that wraps up for this week, and we will finish it next episode. I'm producer James.
And I'm Sasha.
And we'll see you for the next 4.